Hello, friends. There has been a lot of discussions recently about the 60 days grace period when it comes to the H1b transfer, especially since Meta laid off a lot of employees and Twitter also did, and Stripe. A lot of companies in Bay Area did some layoff, and a lot of employees have been impacted who are in H1b. So how does it impact these workers? So it's not a very kind of one answer which will fit all the situations, and then that's the reason I thought I'll do this video. So there is a 60 days grace period. Of course, there is a 60 days grace period, which says that basically, if you lose a job and within 60 days, if you can find another H1B employer, you can get the H1B transfer, and USCIS will not question that gap in employment for 60 days. So, is it a hard and fast rule about the 60 days? In the last 20 years of practice, I have seen situations where people were without job for more than 60 days. And of course, this rule kicked in only a few years back, the 60 days grace period. But even in the last few years, people who are not without jobs, who are without jobs for, say, 90 days period, we were still able to get the H1B transfer without any issue, because 60 days is the grace period which is officially given, but you can always make arguments based on hardship, or you can also explain the special circumstances, that say you get an offer from a company within 60 days, but there is a delay in filing the H1B, like filing the LCA. It takes some time, right, to do the administrative work to file the H1B. So you can make all those arguments saying that you did find it, and the officer can always use that discretion. So I will say that you just have to do some creative lawyering, when it comes to filing H1B beyond the 60 days period, but it's still possible. So say even we can talk about the family circumstances. The kids are going to school and they will be impacted. They are US citizens, or there can be some health issues, which we can argue about. So there are a lot of things you can do. So don't think that 60 days is something, you cannot go beyond that. So there are some arguments which you can make. Okay, so that is one thing. And uh, people are in different situations. Say, for example, for some of them, they have their perm approved, right? Perm application, which is the first step of the green card, which is also called the labor certification. Some of them don't even have the process started. So for people who had the perm application, the process started, it really doesn't help them. They can move to the other they move to the next company, they have to start the process all over again, the perm process. The same with people for whom even the next step, the 140 is approved. At the most, they will benefit by way of porting their priority date. So if you have a better priority date, then you can just port the priority date to the new H1B employer. So you can do that. But the process, the perm application has to be again started from the scratch with the new employer. But for people whose 485 is pending for more than 6 months, then they can always do the AC21, which is basically some other company taking over the whole green card process. As far as you fit into the same job code or the job role within the same category, I will not say it has to be exactly the same. Like if you're a data engineer, it has to be a data engineer. It can be a data analyst or a database administrator. It can, you have to look into the category where this new job is going to fall under, and the new employer can take over. And again, the 6 months, it doesn't mean that you got laid off and your 485 is pending for 6 months, only then you qualify. Uh, you can qualify as far as the employer who fired you hasn't revoked the 140. So from the time the 485 is spent, like from the time the 485 is filed, 6 months from that time, and even if you lost a job, but the 140, the perm. So you have to understand, the 140 job offer is a permanent job offer, and the H1B job offer is a temporary job offer. So as far as your 140 is pending, you got laid off in the fifth month, and you find another employer, say after like 1 month after you have been laid off. You can always transfer your 485 to the new company, and as part of the AC21 process. you can still do that. So the I feel the people who have the 485 pending, they are in a better shape, definitely. And coming to like a lot of employees who got laid off from Meta had a lot of issues with Department of Labor, correct? I think it's public information. Everyone knows about that. They were not able to file labors. And even for people whom they file labors, they got denied. And again, some cases got validated again, and again it got denied. So I will say, they don't have much choice other than just joining some other company and getting the process going again from the scratch for the perm process. And the other options, people can have is, if say there are some startups or some companies, they don't have a budget for a full-time job, you can always ask the employer to file for a part-time H1b. So they have some funds, but they cannot afford you full-time. Then you can at least ask them to file for a part-time H1b. At least that way you have something going for you, right? So that is one option you should consider. And for people in high cost of living area like Bay Area or Seattle, Washington D.C., New York, New Jersey region. So even if you find an employer, they might not be able to pay the kind of salary which, say, companies like Meta or Twitter they were paying, and because they are bound by the wage surveys, correct? They have to follow the government wage survey, and the wage survey is pretty high these days. For programmers or software developer. Of course, the software developer is pretty high. So it's very tough for sometimes for the employers to sponsor and pay that kind of a salary. So if you can find employer or relocate to some other city where the cost of living is low, then the H1B salary will also be less. So it will be more affordable for some of the employers to file the H1B transfer. So that is something, some areas like Austin or Chicago or any other region, where the salary is low, that is something you consider. Or even some cities, within California. Say, for example, if you go to more towards Sacramento, the salary will be less. So you have to consider some areas where the salary will be less, and if the work location is that place, then the H1B salary will also be less. So you can be more affordable for the employers. And other thing to look into is the start date. Say an employer doesn't have a job right away, for you, but he says that 4 months down the line, I have something for you. Maybe you can delay the start date in the H1B. So you file the H1B, at least you have something going for you. So they can file it within 60 days, and then you start a little late, so that way you can plan the start date. Then employer can also plan their budget accordingly to start you, say, 4 months down the line. Okay, that is something you can consider. And if nothing works, you can also think about changing the status to B2, because uh, you have a lot of things to take care of here, right? And you cannot just pack the bags and leave. So you can always file for a change of status to B2. And meanwhile, I have come across the situations and I've helped some people. So you can always file for a B2. And then meanwhile, you get another job. You can try to file a transfer. And withdraw the B2 petition. That is something you can done, and I have done it without any issues in the past. So there are a lot of options, and you have to look at your situation and accordingly have a good plan on how to go about. I hope this helps. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to help. Just message me. Okay, thanks.